Well, sadly, there was not too much suspense in this game. France did the job and did the job well. Japan, you could argue, were in the game in the first half, but apart from that, they just couldn't match it. They couldn't match it. France were too good on the day. And yeah, no suspense really, and that's kind of a shame. You know, I'm a Les Bleus supporter. I'm half French, and I really like French rugby. And I'm just a bit disappointed for Japan because although I'm a French and English fan, when England played Italy in the Six Nations, I'm not going to lie, I was rooting for Italy. I was rooting for Italy because I was rooting for rugby as a whole. Now, maybe that's wrong. You'd argue that, right? If I'm sure that there's no Springbok fan, for example, watching this that would be happy if Wales won. Maybe one or two would think it's a good thing. But anyway, yeah, it's kind of disappointing for Japan, really, because I like them as an underdog, right? I like seeing teams do well against big teams, but it wasn't the case today. And France, well, they had an interesting setup, right? And Tamak at 10 and Jalibert at 15. They're both very good players. I like Jalibert at 10, although at 15 he was great. He went running hard at the Japanese. He's an interesting player at 15. I haven't seen him play at 15 for his club. But for France, with this setup, it seems to work quite well. Once again, France's depth is showing to be viable. Right, there's some new faces that played against Japan, and look, almost a full house in Tokyo. I'm glad that Japanese rugby is attracting a lot of fans, and I hope Japanese rugby keeps growing despite this kind of thumping victory. And they haven't had many things to celebrate in recent times. I mean, they did beat Italy, I suppose, at home, but I mean, it was Italy. Got my little coffee brewing in the background because it's been an early morning. If you're from South Africa or Europe, you've had to wake up quite early to catch the New Zealand game. And yeah, most of the day is going to be spent watching the rugby. So if I can move around and make some coffees and move the legs, stay awake, that's a good thing. Anyway, I think the rest of this video is going to be about France because France are extremely dangerous. In my opinion, for the next 5-10 years, they're going to be the Springboks' main competitor. And you may wonder why. Well, except for the Springboks, there's no other team that has such a big depth. France have a pool of players that's pretty much unlimited. They can get players from anywhere. Loads of people, loads of youth play rugby, and France will be very dangerous for that reason. They can field a completely different team than they fielded against New Zealand, against who did they play? Australia, and they can do very well, right? No disrespect to Japan, but they were just not good enough on the day. How do you grow Japanese rugby without just turning your entire team into non-Japanese players? Because that was quite shocking for me. Now, Ireland have quite a lot of players from New Zealand, etc. But Japan, the thing is, they're so distinct in their ethnicity and culture that seeing, people with British names, Anglo-Saxon names playing for Japan doesn't sit well with me. I've been to Japan for the Rugby World Cup, and I respect their culture so much. They're different in their own way. They're brilliant people. Most Japanese people that I've seen, actually, it's probably my preferred culture, really. They've got such a wonderful culture, and I don't know if, having a third of the team being non-Japanese, it does them any good for their rugby, really. I mean, maybe it helps, right? Maybe there's not enough sort of Japanese players to be competitive enough. I don't know. Let me know what you think. Talking about France, they can be very dangerous in the next few years. Extremely dangerous. They play a mix of sort of barbarian and Fiji type rugby, and the mix of Springbok / hard rugby. They're very versatile. They compete in all the areas of rugby, really. They were special today. They were special. They seemed really unstoppable. I like their wingers, Atisogbe and Grandidier. Very good players. Now, I say it with the English accent because I could say it with the French one, but I don't know. It's always pissed me off when a French person would speak English with a French accent anyway. And their forwards, young forwards, some of them with not much experience for France, played very well. They overall just, steamrolled Japan. And yeah, I mean, look, they beat Australia comfortably, and I think they could have beaten New Zealand. It was a very tight game for only 2 points difference, and once again, completely different team, completely different number 10. The depth is crazy. France have so many number 10s, number 9s, etc. Even like top tier number 9s that would play for other countries, such as Baptiste Saurin. I think he's so good. He's sort of a fourth choice for France. It's crazy. And France have so many good players that don't make it for the national team. Same as New Zealand, same as South Africa, really, where the competition is so high. And I mean, yeah, same for South Africa, really. You know, even though they're trying a different side against Wales, I can tell you if there's a single player that doesn't put in a shift, he may just be losing out for his chances for the three-peat in 2027. So every single player that's going to play for the Box is going to give it all against Wales, and every single player, same for France, really, because France, you know, their odds of winning a World Cup, I think, have never been higher. I don't think they were ready in 2023. The way that they lost against the Box hurt them. They struggled to recover. Then they got demolished by Ireland in the upcoming game in the Six Nations. Hurt them a lot. So I think that they'll be ready for 2027, and they could be the main competitors for the likes of the All Blacks and the Springboks. How do France win a World Cup? I mean, you know, looking at what they did against Japan, I think that they're definitely gonna, you know, be able to demolish them again in the pool stage. They might have good seeding when it comes to the knockouts. I'm not too sure who they're scheduled to play if everything kind of goes to plan. But yeah, maybe France do have a chance. Maybe maybe it's their time. Maybe France can actually lift the World Cup in 2027. They will have to face the All Blacks, and they will have to face the Springboks. But there's never been a better opportunity in my eyes, especially what I've seen from them against New Zealand, which was probably their best game and also their toughest opponent, you know, in this Southern Series. They did well against Australia, despite being down by 9 points at half-time. And although Japan were competitive in the first half, France decided to start playing in the second half, playing a lot more, and yeah, just literally demolished their opponents. I would have loved Japan to do a lot better. I always feel sad when a small emerging nation with such a passionate fan base, such as the Italians, such as the Japanese, even the Georgians, get crushed by big teams. There's a lot of arguments when I talked about Springboks versus Wales saying, yeah, but the small teams need to be tested against the big teams. Yes and no. What did Wales learn from losing 0-73 versus South Africa? What did the USA learn by losing 85-0 at Murrayfield last year? These teams need to play against teams of their own level and maybe a little bit higher. But there is no point in South Africa hosting the USA for a test game. I don't think that there is the USA, for example, know what to expect. They know that they're going to lose by 100 points. Do you need to play the game? Not necessarily. You need to first improve your rugby, show that you can beat teams like, if you're the USA, for example, if you can beat teams like Georgia, maybe Portugal, Wales, maybe Fiji, maybe you run it close to Italy, then maybe you can face off England or something. But teams like Japan and Fiji, they are included in this nation's championship, but it's not going very well for them. 0 wins for Fiji and 1 win for Japan. Look, we will see, guys. I just want to say congratulations to France. They are very impressive, and I think that they might run it very close in the 2027 World Cup. Although it's still a year to go, I think the Boks are watching closely. They're going to be tested against the All Blacks, and they're watching the All Blacks closely. But they'll keep in mind that France might just be one to look out for a lot closer than right now. All right, well, on to the next game with Australia versus Italy kicking off soon. That should be a cracker and a half. See you soon, boys and girls.